Hey guys, welcome to today's class. In today's class, we are going to talk about variables and data types. But before that, let me quickly talk about how Python basically reads codes and understands the syntax that you write. So let's jump into our code and first understand a little complexer code than what we had written last time. Let me just share my screen with you. Let me just write a program that basically stores your marks in math subject and tells you whether you have passed or not. Okay, so it will print out cleared exam if you pass, otherwise it won't print out anything. Okay, so I'll just describe this program and what we are doing over here, but let's just first write this program out. So exam cleared. Okay, now we have obtained 34 marks. What a bad student you are, just obtained 34. But still you have passed. So the printout that has gone out is that you have passed. Okay. Now this is a little complexer than the initial print hello world program that we wrote. Let's just understand it. Okay. Before moving forward, just one thing that is going to really help you in the world of programming is if you try to imagine everything in terms of real world. So I'll give you an example that will help you visualize programming really well. Imagine yourself to be an IAS officer who's in a government office, okay? And you have been appointed a clerk now. The clerk's duty is to help you out in all your tasks. Now you are from a different state, the clerk is from a different state. You don't have, too much language in common. You don't understand too much English. He doesn't understand too much English. Your mother tongues are different. Now what you will do is basically you'll agree upon a mutually agreed language in which you can give command to the clerk. And basically, they will take the order and execute it. So this language, is can also be called the syntax. So whatever you have agreed upon, in which basically you will talk to each other, you will be giving command to the clerk, which will go further and execute it, is known as the programming language or the syntax. Now this syntax in case of Python and most other programming languages is made up of simple English and basically mathematical language that we have seen. So using equal to operator, greater than operators, brackets, so all these things are there. And there are some other parts of the syntax which help the Python language, or what we also call as the Python interpreter. When I say Python interpreter, what it means is basically the program that will go on and run the code that you have written, and it will follow its each line and execute it as it is. So when the Python interpreter or the clerk comes to this code and it goes over here, it will start executing from the top left. It will start reading and it will see, okay, you have written a word over here, okay, and then you have written a equal to, okay, and then you have written basically a number. It immediately understands that you're talking about a variable and you're trying to set some value or data in it. Okay, so before moving ahead, what is a variable? Variable is nothing but a store of data. Imagine basically a almirah in which you can go and save some items. Now imagine this 34 to be a physical object, okay, and imagine that you're going and saving it in that particular almirah. So that is something you can call as variable. Now you can store some value in data. You can empty out that particular variable. You can empty out that almirah. You can put in new values in that almirah. So this is basically variable. Variable in short is just a store of data. Now what is data? In short, everything that you see in your computer, mobile, that is videos, images, or even text, they are all basically data. At the end of the computer, at the end, they are always stored in form of text, and they are collectively referred to as data. So for example, in this case, when you wrote this word and after it you put a full equal to mark, okay, and then you wrote something, what the Python interpreter immediately understands is the left side of equal to. So whenever it sees an equal to in a statement, it understands that whatever you have written on the left side of equal to, you are trying to assign it to, basically is a variable, and you are trying to assign some value to it. Okay, and what it understands is that you want to assign this particular value to this particular variable. So the Python interpreter will immediately separate these three things. It will understand that there's a variable over here and there's a value, and it will basically store this value in this particular variable. So this is called as an assignment operator. In our maths world, we used to use it for comparison, basically to check whether two things are equal or not. But in world of programming, it is used for assignment. That is to store a particular value in a variable. So in this case, the separator is the equal to. What happens if I remove this space? Will it work? Yeah, it will work, because the Python interpreter understands that the separator is equal to, and it does not care about the spaces in this particular case, okay, and thus the result of our program is exactly the same as before. In this case, it is not caring about the spaces over here. Now what happens when we move on to the next line? When Python moves to the next line, it sees an if keyword over here. Okay, all the keywords words over here that you see in blue are Python's own. It has defined it, so that they have some meaning, and whenever you tell it to the Python interpreter, it understands what you are trying to convey. So if is a reserved keyword. It means that whenever Python will see if, it will try to understand, it will understand that you are trying to declare a conditional statement. Now when it sees if, and it sees a space followed by it, then it understands that you are trying to basically put in a conditional statement. Okay, so what it will do is, after this, it will understand that whatever you are putting it outside over here is basically an expression that you want to evaluate, and basically understand whether this statement is true or not. Okay, so in this case, just in simple language, if we were to talk in the language of English, if math marks are greater than equal to 33, then print exam cleared. So in this case, are the maths mark greater than equal to 33? Yeah, because maths marks we have stored as 34 and we are just comparing them. Okay, so when we are comparing them, this is a comparison operator. We will be talking about all these things in detail. So if you are not able to understand some part of it right now, you don't have to worry at all. So when we are talking about this comparison operator, it will tell us whether this statement is true or not. And it will then end it over here. When it sees a colon, it will understand that basically you are trying to end this conditional statement and basically execute the result. So if this statement is true, then this statement inside it will get executed. Okay, now in this case, if you notice over here, basically space is a very important separator between if and mass mark. The Python interpreter understands that you have put in the if keyword only if you have followed it by a space. So if I delete the space over here, the code will not work, because the space keyword, space was being used as a separator by the Python interpreter. Let me just revert back to the original code. If you see over here, at the end of this, we have put in a colon. Okay, we'll be talking about this in detail when we are doing the if condition statements. But for now, just understand that this is used to denote to the if keyword or to the Python interpreter that whatever condition I wanted to check is finished, that this is the point I want to check all the conditions that are written beyond it. If you don't understand this right now, just forget about it. Okay, now what happens if it is true? What should the Python interpreter do? How do you indicate that? Okay, so before I tell you about this, let me talk about blocks of code. Okay, so a lot of times you want to group together code, like I talked about paragraph. When you try to group together lines of language, English language, same way you sometimes want to group together lines of code. How do you do that? In different languages, it works differently. Like I told you, every language can define its own syntax. Same way Python has defined a particular syntax. How does it do is basically it groups together things by using a tab, or some spaces. So this is called as indentation in the world of programming. Let me just go a bit deeper into the blocks of code, the concept of blocks. Okay, so right now what has happened is you have told your clerk that basically if this condition is true, then execute this line of code. But in real world, you will also at a lot of times what you're going to do is basically you're going to give a lot of set of commands that you are going to ask them to do. So for example, in real world, for example, you might say that if the vegetables in the fridge are less, then go to market. This is going to be your first command. Then tell them take this list, okay, then buy this vegetables. If there is spare change left, go to a temple, put the money in the temple box, then come back. So you've given multiple commands to the clerk, but all those commands are conditional. That is only and only if the vegetables in the fridge are less, then go to the market and do all these stuff. Same way, you might want to do a lot of commands. You might want to execute multiple lines of code in Python as well, only on when particular condition arises. You will understand this better when we'll be talking about functions as well. So if you're not absolutely clear right now, it's completely fine. What we can do over here is we can execute multiple lines of code, and all based on the condition that has been provided in the statement here. Okay, so instead of saying exam cleared, we can also say hooray, or we can also say basically buy me a gift or whatever. Just because you have passed in the exam, you're very happy, you're going to home, you're saying exam cleared, you're saying hooray, you're saying buy me a gift. All of these are executed together, one by one, only if the maths marks are greater than the passing marks. That is, this if condition is being satisfied. Okay. Let me just fail you for the moment. Okay. Let me just put you on borderline. Let me put it at 31. As you can see over here, nothing is being printed. That means this entire block of code, so you can call this entire thing as a block of code, has not been executed. It has been grouped together, and this grouping can also be called as a block. Since we have not talked about blocks, let me just remove these two lines again, and let me tell you what happens when the Python interpreter reaches here. Okay, so when the Python interpreter reaches here and it sees this word followed by a round bracket, it immediately understands that we are talking about a function. Now, what are functions? So functions, to simply state in one line, are a set of commands that can be defined once but can be invoked again and again without having to repeat those set commands. Let me give you a simple example from your childhood. If you remember, your mother would take you to the market, when you must have been like 10 or 11, and she would have told you, this is the shop from where you can buy veggies, this is the shop from where you can buy fruits, this is a shop from which you can buy ration. Okay, so basically what your mother has done is, inside your mind she has planted a function. She has told you how to execute that particular set of commands, and next time she doesn't explain it to you again. She simply tells you, go to the market and buy veggies, and here's the list of fruits, here's the list of vegetables, here's the list of ration that you have to buy. So if I were to write it in terms of Python, and the syntax that I'm about to write is not exactly Python, it's a combination of English and Python. And what we need to understand over here is, if you see, what we are doing is we are replicating real world things over here. Okay, and thus Python, essentially in any programming language, before you write the code, you have to think through the entire logic in terms of plain English or your own language first, and then you need to translate it in language of any programming language. So here, let me define the buy veggies function which your mother has imparted in your mind. So she will tell you, here's a list of fruits, okay, that you need to buy, and here's a list of, let's say, ration items. Okay, and she will tell you, as a first step, you need to go to the market. Now go to Vermaji's shop, to buy the fruits. Okay, Verma's shop. Now she will tell you, for each item in fruits, okay, she will tell you buy item. Now she will tell you, basically, go to ration shop. For each item in ration, basically buy that particular ration item. So what she has done is, basically she has imparted a function in your mind, and now anytime she wants to, she wants you to go to the market and buy veggies for her, what she'll do is she'll simply write buy veggies, and she'll give you two lists. And now what are these inside these round brackets? I'll just talk about them, but she'll hand you over apple, and then she'll tell you buy banana, and then for ration she might tell you, go and buy salt. Next day she'll tell you, instead of banana, she might ask you to let's say buy some other fruit. Instead of salt, she might ask you to buy sugar. And over here, instead of banana, let's say she has asked you to buy mango. Okay, another day she can do the same thing, and she can do it again and again. She just needs to tell you, go to the market and buy these things. She doesn't need to explain it to you again. So these are essentially functions. Now, as you might have noticed, inside these functions there are some things that we can call as parameters. So what happens in real world is, basically you define a function, but to control that function, each time you pass on some parameters on the basis of which that function has to act. So every time your mother will pass on you a different list from which you have to buy items. Okay, but the function remains the same, but based on that list you buy different items every day. So this is how functions work. There are three very important things in functions, but for now let's just focus on the name part, that is, what is the name of the function. Now this is not at all important to the Python's interpreter. Python interpreter doesn't care what name you are doing, but if you want to work in good companies, and this course is going to make you really job ready, you need to write very clean code that others can understand. So your function names should be very intuitive. They should be indicative of what that function is doing. So as soon as you see buy veggies, you really understand that what this function is talking about. And now inside these round braces, you define what parameters does these, will this function take in. As in real life, in the world of programming also, you can pass on multiple parameters. As over here we have passed on, the list of fruits. as well as a list of ration. And we can even pass in different kind of parameters. So for example, your mother might pass you, the fruits and the ration, and she might as well give you a budget. So she might tell you, here's a budget for basically going out and buying, let's say, the money. So here's 1,000 rupees. If it doesn't come under 1,000 rupees, don't buy these items. So she might tell you this. So basically you can pass in multiple functions to a parameter. We'll be learning about functions in a dedicated class later on, but this is just for now to understand the print statement that we are going to talk about. So like, you can define many functions of your own, but as you might recall that, the clerk or the Python interpreter that we are talking about is, in real life, a very correspondent to a human. And humans come with, many inbuilt functionalities. For example, as soon as child grows, they have inbuilt functionality to move their hand, talk, move, and all that stuff. You can also train them for many things. For example, your mother trained you to buy veggies. The same way, you can add many functions to the, your code, but there are some inbuilt functions. One such prominent example is the print function, through which you can, whatever you pass it as a parameter, it will print it out to the output console. So this is what the print function does. Now, when the compiler comes over here, it sees a word, it sees a round bracket, it understands that it is talking about a function. And when it sees a print word over here, okay, it immediately understands that you're talking about the inbuilt function. Now, when you pass on a parameter, and in this case, what you have done is you have passed on a string. How does the Python interpreter know this is a string and what is a string? String is nothing, just a text. Python doesn't understand what you're talking about. It just understands that it is a text that, basically you have passed on to it. Now, strings in any programming languages are represented using double quotes. So whatever you put inside double quotes is a string. Okay, this is very important. The double quote must start and the double quote must close. Inside it, you can even put in a number and it won't matter at all. So let me just remove it and demonstrate it to you. So basically, what has happened over here is Python has understood that you've invoked a function, basically you have called a function and passed a single parameter to it, which is a string. Okay, so so our marks are, because our marks are less than 33, so this statement has not printed out. Let me just pass you for a while to run it and demonstrate it to you. As you can see, even the number is getting print. Can you think of something that you cannot put inside this string? And let me know in the comment box what you cannot put it inside this string. What character you cannot put inside the string? Just think about it for a moment and think about how the Python interpreter is working, how it is going for a double quote, and whatever is inside the double quote, it is treating as a string. Just pause this video and write in the comment box. Now that we have talked somewhat about the Python syntax and how basically Python, reads our code and understands various parts of it, let's just talk about variables. So to understand variables, I'll give you a very simple analogy that will help you understand it really, really easily. In every government office or any office for that matter, imagine there's a room in which, there are shelves, 2D shelves, basically there are shelves on the horizontal plane as well as on the vertical plane. So big almirah which has many shelves. In each shelf, you can put a file over there, which is basically corresponding to data in the programming world. Now, as an IAS officer or as an officer, you tell your clerk to basically take one file or data and go put it in an almirah. And you also give it a label. Okay, so there are already shelves over there, they are lying there. Just ask it to basically take a piece of data that you're given it to it and save it in a in a shelf and name that shelf, label that shelf with the name of the variable. So that is basically variables. What happens over here is when you tell the Python interpreter that math marks is equal to 35, what you're telling to the clerk is basically take up a variable, take up a space in the variable room and basically take any space which is empty, mark it as math mark and put in 35 there. Now this shelf is associated with the variable name math mark. Next time, whenever you want to invoke that particular variable, okay, you just need to mention that math mark and the Python interpreter will go into the variable rule, immediately look for that math, shelled label math mark, and basically whatever data is there, it will fetch it. And because the computer is so quick, it will happen in microseconds. You won't even notice it and it will happen that fast. You can also save new data in it. Okay, so just if you want, right now what we have done is we have basically saved 35 in it. Let me just remove what we have written below and let me just print out the math mark, because I have told you whenever I am using this variable name, the Python interpreter or the clerk will immediately go into the room, find the label named mass mark, the shelf with the label, and it will fetch whatever value you have provided over there. Okay, and it will go and bring it to you. So now when you are asked to print this value, you can do anything with it. You can also perform mathematical operations on it because it's an integer. But right now you have just asked it to be printed, and this is what has happened. What if you want to save something else in that shelf? Okay, you can also save something else. So you can simply say, like you have said in the previous line, instead of saving 35, you can save 45 now. Now, whatever data is there in that shelf, it will be moved, and basically, the number 45 will be saved in that particular shelf. And now, as we can see over here, we had first stored 35. In the next command, you had asked the clerk or the Python interpreter to instead save 45. So throw whatever is out and instead save 45. And in the next command, you have asked to print whatever is in the mass mark shelves. So when you ask it, so whatever is the latest value that has been printed out. One thing very important to remember over here is the order that is going to be followed by the Python interpreter. So Python interpreter will strictly move line by line. Okay. Now, first line, when it sees math marks is equal to 35, it understands that you are trying to create a new variable, because whenever you say math marks is equal to 35, you are creating a new variable and also, initializing it with some value. So the Python interpreter goes and see, okay, there's no such, variable, there's no such shelf labeled as math mark. So it will create a new, it will assign an existing shelf with the new label math marks. Okay. And then it will store the value 35 in it. In the next set, what you have told Python, let's imagine the next day you call on the clerk or the Python interpreter and tell them, go and say 45 in the mass mark. I don't care whatever is it. In this line, what you are doing is basically telling this. In the third line, what you are doing is basically, or let's say third day, what you are saying is just go and fetch whatever was there and print it. So the order that you have done things is very important. So for example, if I print mass marks in between of these lines, what would get printed? Okay, so just pause the video for a second and try to think what will actually get printed over here first and then over here second. As many of you might have rightly guessed, it will first print 35, and then it will print 45. The reason being simple, because first you had asked it to store 35, and in the next line you are asking it to fetch whatever is it inside that shelf at that particular moment. So in that case, it will go and fetch and it will find 35. In the next line, you are changing the value in that shelf, and then you are basically asking for the value of that shelf again. So it will retrieve the saved value. So this is variables in summary. Now variables can also be of different types. So to again extend the previous example, in real world also you can have shells of different sizes. And for example, if your some files are this thin, you wouldn't want a shelf of this big size to store that particular file. Sometimes your shelf, your files could be very big. For example, income tax files of Vijay Mallya or people like those would be very, very big. Okay. So you would need big shelves for that. So to optimize space, you would want to have different kind of, entire shelves to store different kind of files, or let's say different kind of data. Same way in the world of programming also, you can have different type of data. So far we have seen about integer. There can be other type of data also. For example, the decimal point, which is also called as a float in, the world of programming. You can also have strings. Strings are basically text. You can also have a very special kind of data type that exists mainly in the world of programming, that is Boolean, which is used to denote just truth and false. Let's just explore all these data types and how do you save it there. So let's first talk about the float point or the decimal point of variable. Okay, let's just call a variable x, and to simply put in decimal, or float data type, what you need to do is basically, just you need to put in a number and put the decimal point ahead of it. It automatically assumes it to be a float type. In Python, one of the specialties of Python says you do not need to explicitly tell the data type of a particular variable. In a lot of other languages like C++ or Java, you need to tell first what this variable is going to be. In Python, you can simply put in the value and it will automatically figure out what kind of data you are trying to put in. This is like basically you just giving a file to the Python interpreter or the clerk and telling them to figure out where just put in wherever the size fits in. So this is what will happen over here. So if I go out and print it, it will just print out the 45.5x. Now to know the type of, what type of data are we storing in a variable, this is a very handy function. Okay. So what we can do over here is basically we can just write in type, and this is also an inbuilt function provided by Python, and we can put in the name of the variable over here. Okay, and this will return as a type and it will print it on the screen. So over here, I'll just type in, and put it over here. So as you can see, the first one, it has shown us to be class of int. And for the second type, it is telling us that it is float. We have seen another data type previously also, and that was string. Let me just put a string over here and let's just write the name over here. Okay. What I've written over here is name is equal to Siddharth. So this is a string. Whenever Python sees that you have put in double quotes and and you have closed that double quote also. So whatever you put inside that double quote is a string. You can also print that variable, and similarly you can print the type of that particular variable. When you run it over here, you will see the name as well as you can see that the string type is string. STR stands for string. Same way int stands for integer. Notice over here in all these cases, whenever you are invoking this function, what is happening is basically the clerk or the Python interpreter rushes to the memory room, bring that particular data and pass it on to the print function. What is happening over here in print type name, what we are doing is basically we are chaining functions, but we'll talk about this later on. Let's explore the last data type for today. There are some other data types which are complex data types, but we'll be studying about them in further classes. Let's talk about the Boolean type now. Okay, so what we can basically in Boolean type, what we store is whether a value is true or false. So we just store truth in the Boolean type, and the type basically it can hold only two values. One is true and the other is false. So if you put in over here, what you need to write is true, and true with a capital T. Now one thing in programming that you need to understand is most of the languages are case sensitive. That is, they care whether you have written capital T or small t. So in programming, world of programming, even small mistakes, even a mistake of space or a missing dot or a missing column can lead to programming errors. So now what we have done over here is basically we have stored true in this particular Boolean type. We can just print it over here and we can also see its type. And as we will see in the output over here, we'll print true as well as write bool. Bool, which stands for Boolean. There's another value, like I told you, Boolean can have only two values, which is true or false. We can also save false over here and we can print it. So that was all about variables and the basic Python syntax. In next class, we are going to delve into arithmetic operators, and after that, I also give you a homework assignment that you can do to not just practice and see where you stand at the moment. Hope you like this video. If you like it, please share, like, and subscribe. And especially make sure to share it with your friends who might want to learn Python from the very scratch.